All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Friday, December 6th, and we are just about 24 hours and some change away from the Texas Longhorns taking on the Georgia Bulldogs in their first ever SEC championship game appearance in their first year representing the conference, and a rematch from Texas's lone loss on the season. And Jake, this is going to be a good one. We haven't really got a chance to dive into this game very much. I know it's Friday, and this is kind of the first time we're putting our 100% focus into this game. There's been so many other things, responding to the Texas A&M game, getting ready for the college football playoffs, Texas recruiting and National Signing Day. There's just been a lot of other things going on this week. Not necessarily distracting us, just news we need to get out. And so we finally get to hone in 100%, preview this Texas-Georgia game. We are going to give you all 30-plus minutes focusing on the Texas-Georgia SEC championship game. We will give our final predictions at the end of the show, and we will kind of go through by numbers and keys to victory throughout the show as well. Jake, in a rematch from Texas's only loss in the regular season, how are you feeling going into this game? What's the nerve level at? And how are we feeling?
I'm starting to feel it a little bit, going into it. But as far as like just nerves of like, oh, must win, that's not quite there. Just because knowing they're in the playoff regardless.
Quick question on that, Jake. Do you think that in previous episodes you and I have talked about, we don't need to really get into that discussion right now, but if you change the automatic bids from, you get the top 4 seeds and the seeding of it just matters in terms of the top 4 teams, this game would have more implications. I know still if Georgia wins, they get a first round bye and this, that, and the other, whatever. But do you think that if you change the automatic bid rules in terms of it doesn't determine seeding, it just determines a playoff spot in this game, similar to the Big Ten game, would it mean a little bit more, or would it kind of have a little bit more to it in terms of fighting for that bye week?
I think so, because in the back of my head, I wouldn't be going in the very deep pockets. Like, I'm not talking this is a forefront thought, but it's there somewhere deep inside where there's this little voice just going, would Texas be better off in the long run losing and being a 5th or 6th seed when you look at how the bracket might unfold than being the 2 seed? There's a lot of variables there, right?
Has to think.
But there is a distinct possibility that could be the case where Texas wins this game. We feel great. And then we go, well, crap, we're going to have to play Georgia for a 3rd time in the first game. Or you're going to have to play Tennessee, or you're going to have to play.
Well, you wouldn't play Georgia, but.
Yeah. Or got to pay Ohio State in the first round, or, versus if you were the 5 seed going, oh no, we have to play Arizona State and then Boise State. Or UNLV and Arizona State, or
however that unfolds.
However it could unfold, there's many different ways. But just knowing Texas is in makes it to where it's more of just, I want to see this team come out and play a much better game than they did the first time around, and show that they've improved and show that they can learn. Last year we didn't get to see the rematch against Oklahoma because Oklahoma couldn't hold up their end of the bargain. They blew their load against Texas and then never were able to come back from that. This time around, we're getting to see the rematch of the loss from the middle of the season. And I want to see what, I think this offense is going to be very motivated. And I want to see them run the ball better. I want to see them avoid turnovers. And we're going to get into all of this, but I just want to see how they respond, because this is their chance to truly respond to that loss. Playing Vanderbilt, playing even A&M and all these teams that they've beat down the stretch, that isn't a true chance to respond to a loss. Playing the team you lost to at home and got embarrassed in the first half this is their chance to respond to that.
Jake, this is a prideful team. Sark is a prideful guy, and he has prideful players around him and a prideful staff. working with these guys. And I think there's two lines of thought here, a couple more maybe. First off, yes, you have an opportunity to avenge a loss, your only loss of the season, and really cement yourself as, we made up for that loss. We came back, beat the team who beat us, and now we are clear and ahead, the number one team, not only in our conference, but even making a case as the number one team in the country and a favorite to go out and win the national championship, leaving no doubt and taking any question mark out of that equation going into this game. So there's that aspect of it. There's also the aspect of, we heard for years, just wait till you get to the SEC, Texas. It's not going to be that easy. Don't you think that it's a little bit more of a pride thing to say, in year one, we came into your conference and won your conference against your defending champion over the last 3 years? I mean, there is definitely a pride there for Texas to motivate them to win this game and to come out and play their best game against a Georgia team who we talk about it in the college football ranks. It is hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. Texas has an opportunity to maybe face this Georgia team a third time down the road. Who knows what that's going to look like? But I think that those two big things, Jake, is going to be plenty of fuel to the fire to motivate this Texas team come Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't worry about when I talk about me not maybe being as nervous, none of that applies to how the team feels. The team,
oh, sure,
this is do or die in their minds, I'm sure, because this is the team they lost to. For the offensive line, especially, their goal is to win the Joe Moore Award at the start. They are finalists. If they don't win that award, it's because of that Georgia game. That's their only truly bad game as an offensive line. I mean, they maybe had one or two, maybe Vanderbilt was the most shaky performance other than that. But down the stretch, they've been completely dominant. They were dominant to start the season. So, I think this offensive line takes a lot of pride in trying to be the best offensive line in the country. And they view this as their chance for revenge for getting embarrassed the first time through. I know not all those sacks were their fault, but I can tell you, offensive linemen don't care. They see a 6 next to that sack stat on the stat line, and they go, that's unacceptable. They see that Contravius Wisner couldn't get anything going on the ground. Jaden Blue didn't even get a carry in that game. And they go, that is not acceptable. And they have since made the run game look much better down the stretch. And I'm sure that is going to be a big goal, is to show that they are a legit running team by having success, whereas they did not the first time against Georgia.
And Jake, speaking of offensive line, we do have some injury report news and an update for the Texas Longhorns star left tackle, Kelvin Banks. He is officially questionable going into this game. On the Georgia side of things, running back Trevor Etienne, also questionable. Two big factors, two big-time players for both of these two offenses and these programs who like to lean on the identity of being a tough physical football team. Trevor Etienne, a very tough physical running back. Kelvin Banks, a very tough physical offensive lineman and left tackle. If Trevor Goosby gets the start, we saw incredible things out of him against Texas A&M. Is he ready for a Georgia defensive line that gave the offensive line of Texas trouble?
It almost feels like if he starts, it could be one of those scenarios where everyone's overly confident in a dude who at the end of the day is a redshirt freshman. And going against Kirby Smart.
Got his first minutes a week ago.
And Kirby Smart, it's not just the talent, it's also the stunts, the pre-snaps shifts, and all the different things, the delayed blitzes, everything that Kirby Smart brings to the table. That's what would worry me more with having a Goosby out there. And I think Goosby wouldn't play terribly. But yeah, I want Kelvin Banks out there. I mean, sure. I think Kelvin Banks just gives you a better chance to win at the end of the day. And I would be surprised if he doesn't play, or at least try to give it a go, with him being questionable and not doubtful on the first report. I think that's probably a pretty good sign. And just knowing how tough Kelvin Banks is, it's going to take him not being able to move to not play. But would I feel comfortable with Gooseby out there? Yes and no. I mean, he has quite literally not given me a reason not to. But at the same time, Georgia is a different caliber than A&M. And I do think they would draw things up to give him issues in this game. And so I would feel better with Banks out there for sure.
Now, Jake, this Georgia offense without Trevor Etienne, if he's unable to go, or maybe he is able to go, they have looked a little bit more formidable over the last few weeks of the regular season. They've kind of started to hit a little bit of a stride. Carson Beck, namely, I think a lot of the All In Dogs podcasters out there have been having a similar conversation about their quarterback as we have here on All In Horns about Quinn Ewers. This offense will thrive if the quarterback thrives and he plays his best game. But if he's not playing his best game and he's turnover prone or he's hampering the offense will not live up to the expectation. And this will solely rely on the defense coming up with a big performance. I think those conversations with local podcasts all around the world of Georgia and Texas fans, maybe having similar conversations about their offensive quarterback situation. What have you seen from Carson Beck of recent? Where do you think that this offense has improved since Texas last saw Carson Beck throwing 3 interceptions and only scoring 1 drive where they had to go length of the field starting at their own 46-yard line? That's a little bit of a slight jab at the offense for not having but one offensive drive over 36 yards to score. So where do you see this Georgia offense now?
They're playing much better football than they were going into the Texas game. Carson Beck specifically. This offense lives and dies with Carson Beck. And I think he has 11 touchdown passes and 1 interception in the last 3 games. And it kind of started, they handled Florida, though it was a little closer than expected right after Texas. Then they had their worst game of the season with the 18-point loss to Ole Miss. Then they started to roll against a very good Tennessee defense. And that was a game where Carson Beck had 347 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Georgia Tech, the game he's just now coming off of, 300 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, no picks.
Mm-hmm.
And so that speaks for itself. He was struggling going into the Texas game last time. He's not struggling going into it this time. And what I will say with that is, and I teased this briefly in yesterday's episode, is when I go back and watch that Georgia game, Texas's pass rush was not doing what it's done to other teams. And that is a concern for me in this game, because if the pass rush cannot get there, if Carson Beck plays like he has the last few weeks, there were opportunities for the Georgia's passing game where Beck missed a pass or a receiver dropped it, where they would have gotten big gains in that first time through. And if that pass rush isn't getting there, I do think Georgia can probably have more success than any team has had against this Texas defense. And so that's kind of my biggest area, other than the offense, as far as when it comes to the defense. That formula is kind of my biggest area of concern going into this game for the defense.
Yeah, and Jake, do you think that so taking a look at Georgia's last few games, UMass in that first half was down 31-21 against this Georgia team. Georgia ended up running away with that one fairly easily. 59-21 was the final, but it was a 10-point game at one point with UMass putting up points early. And then obviously Georgia Tech, who should not be giving Georgia that much of a game, but and you can kind of blame the overtime rules. Does that game go into 8 overtimes if they're not constantly just going for 2 over and over and over again? Probably not. Who knows? But an 8 overtime game against Georgia Tech, where Georgia Tech could have very easily won that game, could have completely destroyed Georgia's playoff hopes. In terms of kind of the close calls, or I guess the inconsistency of Georgia being able to put together a complete game, a full end-to-end game, do you think that plays into Texas's hand at all?
if Texas can put together a complete game, I mean, that's been an issue for Texas. They've just looked a little bit prettier doing it at times.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't put a full game together against A&M. Otherwise, that game would have been 31-zip if they put together a complete game. I mean, the defense has put together complete games, but the offense is not. And the bad thing is the offense still kind of has some of the issues have shown up that happened in that Georgia game, just bad turnovers. The offensive line is the big difference. I would say they've played their best football down the stretch, both in run blocking and pass blocking. But yeah, I mean, do I think that could be a positive for Texas? Yes, but that's only in a scenario where Texas plays their best game of the season, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I think both teams kind of have a similar weakness where they both have struggled to put together complete games. Texas has probably looked a little more consistent, namely because the defense has been really consistent, whereas Georgia, it's been more of the offense is on, the defense is off. The defense is on, the offense is off. But when they play complementary football, they look like they did in Austin. So it's kind of what Georgia are you going to get? Because like you mentioned, they've shown some really brilliant moments as a football team, and then they've shown some moments where you go, is that really Georgia? And it's which one of those are you going to get? And I imagine you're going to probably get their best punch again because Kirby Smart is a damn good football coach at getting his teams up for the biggest games.
Now, Jake, Texas, by the numbers anyway, is they are nearly in every major important statistical category ranked slightly above Georgia, really through everything. In terms of total offense, Georgia's at 37. Texas is at 14. In terms of rushing offense, Georgia's at 101, which is dreadful. Texas is at 52, middle of the road. Passing offense, they are top 10. Texas is at number 17. And then total defense, Georgia's defense is ranked at 35. Texas is at number 3. Everything in Texas is essentially top 3, top 5 defense, whereas Georgia kind of falls in this 40 to 30, 25-ish range, if you will, on the defensive numbers. So when it comes to just looking at this game on paper, Texas should hold a pretty decent advantage. With that being said, the game isn't played on paper, it's played on the field, and we've already seen this game played out on the field once before.
Yeah, and also that is where I will say, and strength of schedule is an overblown topic, but when you talk about team stats and comparing them 1-to-1, I do think Georgia playing the number 1 schedule in college football kind of evens a lot of those things out to a point, especially when you consider they beat Texas and It was in Austin, and the first half was the worst half of Texas football we've seen in the last 2 years at the least. And so I think this time through, we're going to see both teams play better football on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that's going to lead to it being a much tighter game from start to finish. Because I do actually believe these are pretty evenly matched teams. And I actually think Georgia probably matches up better than anyone in the country other than maybe like an Oregon against Texas. Just matchup wise, I think Georgia's just.
And why do you think that is? What do you think that they have the advantage? Is it just the edge rushers and the ability to get to the passer with the Texas's strength being the offensive line? They can kind of put a little bit more pressure on that offensive line and on Quinn, make him feel uncomfortable, and that affects the majority of the passing game. Now, Texas in recent games, really since I would say the Florida game, have maybe switch this identity offensively, where I believe they are using the run to set up the pass and not vice versa, the pass setting up the run. I think Texas is wanting and has established the running game much more effectively in the last 4 weeks than they did at the beginning of the year whenever they had to go play Georgia.
I think it's the ability for Georgia to press at the line of scrimmage because receivers weren't getting open quickly, and focus on stopping the run and going beat us deep because they have the personnel to do that while most other teams don't. That's why you see other teams run the 3 high safety look like what Arkansas did where they just go, we're not going to let you beat us over the top. We'll let you run it for 4 to 5 yards a pop and trust that you're going to shoot yourself in the foot and not score a touchdown. Georgia goes, no, we're not going to give you anything. And if you can't pass deep balls against us, you're not going to move the ball. And that's what they did the first time through. And most teams in the country don't have the dogs, if you will, to do that. The players, the personnel to do that. Georgia does.
Right.
And I think it's going to be really important for Quinn Ewers to hit, some passes like he did against A&M, to hit a golden on a deep ball, to hit Wingo crossing over the middle, to be money from that 10 to 19 yard range. I think if Quinn is effective with the intermediate passes, it doesn't even have to be deep balls, but those intermediate passes, I think that will open up everything for this offense. And that can come from successful running to start the game. I just don't see Texas coming out in the first quarter and running for 6 yards a pop against Georgia. I didn't see it the first time. I know they're playing better in the run game right now. It's just still hard for me to envision that happening to Georgia unless it's using some trickery, maybe throwing Arch Manning out, not just in the red zone. They struggled. The big reason Georgia Tech had success running the football against Georgia was Haynes King. He had 24 carries.
Yeah.
Throw Arch Manning out there, let him get some extra snaps in some different packages, see if they can stop it.
I do hate the idea. I hate the idea of limiting Arch to just running it and having the defense pin their ears back and say, "Oh, this is a QB choice." And you've got to, I think, early, if you're going to use an Arch package, give it an RPO and have him throw the ball 1 or 2 times, or a quick swing pass, screen pass, whatever that looks like. Then open that up to be like, okay, they're not just going to run Arch like a Haynes King offense. They're going to actually open up the playbook a little bit with Arch. But yeah, I actually completely agree. You can use what Georgia Tech did, and you have a better quarterback in Arch Manning to do that.
I think you let Arch do what he does best. You play action and you just launch it.
Yeah.
You just go, hey, throw it 50 yards down the field and let's see what happens. I wouldn't mind seeing that early in the game, just not in the red zone. Throw them out there. Maybe you do a run to start or something, and then just do play action and bomb it. If they're giving you the look, just bomb it. I mean, what if you lose the possession? Oh, well, I think it's worth the shot to do that, because then if it works, you can run that package quite a bit, because
that or you even get a flag.
Yeah,
that or you get a flag out of it. You can get a pass interference, defensive holding,
and if
whatever.
It turns into a pick, it's probably a better punt than what the punter would do anyways. So
that is entirely valid and true, Jake. Let's go ahead and get to our keys to victory real quick, Jake, and make our final predictions on this game. And then we will finish this episode off with giving you, because yesterday's episode, we gave you our conference championship predictions. So if you want to go hear those before we give our final playoff predictions in terms of how everything is going to look after this weekend, pause this episode, go back, listen to that episode, come back here, finish out our predictions here. But Jake, our keys to victory for the Texas Longhorns to have success against the Georgia Bulldogs, I'm going to go ahead and run mine out first. That's protect the football. You have to protect the football. You cannot have Quinn Ewers having 3 turnovers in this game, getting sacked, loss of yardage, getting down the field, even if it's a 10-play drive and you get into the red zone and you fumble or have an interception, pick 6. You cannot have those types of plays like you had against Texas A&M against this Georgia Bulldog team. You have to finish your drives, especially if they're long, time-consuming drives. You've got to put the dagger in this team as soon as you possibly can. Secondly, that's protect Quinn, Jake. I know typically you have the offensive line key to victory. I'm going to steal that one for you. Whether it's Trevor Gooseby and you need to leave in a Gunnar Helm or a Juan Davis or have a Trey Wisner chip block, whatever that is, you have to help him out. If Trevor Gooseby is going to be getting the nod, you have to be able to max protect and help Quinn Ewers and still efficiently run your offense. Lastly, come out of this game healthy. You have more football to play after this game, pure and simple. Like that, to me, a victory in this game, even if it results in a loss, would be coming out of this game completely healthy going into the college football playoffs. And it really will. I mean, that might be loser talk. Call me out on it in the comments. That's fine. I'll take it. Come out healthy in this game. Play it your full potential in the college football playoffs. Even if you come out of this game with a loss, the ultimate win would be that you get to continue to play college football into the college football playoffs, which you will be with a fully healthy team.
Yeah, the SEC championship trophy would feel a little bit cold if you had 5 starters go down.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way.
No, it really would, Jake. Ask any Longhorn fan. Put this scenario in your head. Would you rather win the SEC championship and lose 5 starters on the offense or the defense or total, or and go into the college football playoffs like that? Or would you rather lose the SEC championship, nobody gets hurt, and you get to go in as a 5 seed fully healthy?
Yeah, I'll take the latter.
I'll take the latter.
I don't like saying that. I get it's loser talk, but the 12-team playoff system makes it so that is true to a point. And that is the downside of an expanded playoff. Because if this was a 4-team playoff, this would be the go. Win. Yeah, this is to go to the playoff.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, so I still fit an offensive line one in here, by the way. Sure. You'll never stop me. First off, start fast. It is well documented how poorly that football game started against Georgia. The first time through, you got to see a solid, and that start fast doesn't mean you have to score a touchdown on the first drive. I think a lot of fans, when you hear start fast, go, wow, yeah, after the first drive, well, slow start again. Well, no, the first drive is not everything. By start fast, I mean, don't be down 14-0 after the first quarter with 2 turnovers and 3 sacks already. It's more of a first quarter point of view. Mm-hmm. And then obviously a first half point of view in this case, when you look at the first game. Second, run the ball with success. And whether that be Arch Manning coming in and helping that, which I really do think could be, you at least have to test the waters with it, I think, early in this game, especially with how Georgia struggled with Haynes King running the football. And then for the offensive line, this is the pride game, right? This is the revenge game for the offensive line. And that's not just not giving up sacks. That's also running the football and running it early with success, but especially late, and getting Wisner going, because there was no room to run the football in that first game. And then make Carson Beck feel the pass rush. I don't feel like they did a great job of that in the first game. I know they didn't get very many sacks in it, and I think they had a little more success as the game went on, but they're going to need to get to Carson Beck, because Carson Beck's playing better football. I expect him to play better, and so the way you make him play worse is by sacking him, by getting hurries, by making him move around, and then force the ball, and then that's when the interceptions will come. If he's just able to sit back there, do a 3-step drop, go through his progressions, he's going to find an open guy. No secondary is perfect. And so I think it's going to be really important for the pass rush to play like they have against every single team not named Georgia.
All right, Jake, let's go ahead and just jump right into our SEC championship predictions. My prediction on the game, not just the score, but we always like to throw in a little extra. Texas's offense doesn't commit a single turnover. I think they play a clean game. I don't know if that's going to be because they're going to be more on the conservative side, but I think even playing conservatively with your running backs and primarily running the football, you've had running back ball carrier issues all season long, whether that's a Trey Wisner or Jaden Blue. So I think ball security is going to be crucial. I think they're going to take care of the football, and I think Quinn Ewers holds on to it himself in terms of not forcing it with, I don't know what it is about Quinn, but he just loves the silly interception. The goofy off the wall, like not even close. Like, what are you thinking? Or just one of the ugliest interceptions, whether it's a tip ball or not. It just is like, what happened on that play? And it's not going to happen for him this game, though. I think we're going to see I think, Jake, I know it's a far better opponent whom we're playing. I would not be surprised if we saw a similar feel to the Big 12 championship game from a season ago in terms of this team's readiness. I'm not saying like the score is going to resemble that. I'm just saying they're going to come out ready to play. And again, it may not even show on the score that it dominates that way because Georgia is a better team and they can play with a team who plays like that. I'm just saying we're going to see an efficient team of that caliber play on Saturday.
You're trying to get Georgia fans in our comments again, man, with the
Oh, man.
just putting that out there like that. It's hard for me to even, I get what you're saying, but also it's just hard for me to connect the dots there because you're comparing Oklahoma. Like, just in my mind, it's comparing
not
Texas
comparing
on the field. I know, but still, you're saying those two games in the same sentence, and I'm looking at Oklahoma State on a football field, and then I'm looking at Georgia on a football field.
It's two different teams, very different.
And
Yes.
I've seen Georgia on a football field with Texas this year, and because of that, for the first time this season, I'm going to pick Texas to lose this game.
Wow.
I believe I picked them to win or lose 2 games at the start of the season. My predictions did not reflect that on our prediction shows. I ended up picking them, I think, to win in every game this season.
Yes.
I'm predicting them to lose this game. I think it's going to be very close. I think Texas is going to play much better. I think Georgia is just a tough matchup. I think
you're trying to get Longhorn fans in our comments upset.
Hey, I want Texas to win, but I watched Georgia go into Austin and double up Texas at the end of the day, and it's hard for me to just go, well, yeah, Texas. If I just pick Texas to win again, to me it almost sounds like a homer view, even though we both know Texas didn't play their best game. I do think Texas plays much better. I think they play cleaner. I think Georgia plays cleaner. And I think if the pass rush doesn't get there, I think this could be a game where the defense doesn't play bad, but they give up some touchdowns and they actually give up some drives. I think this is going to be a 3-point game, maybe 27-24 is kind of where I'm at. I could even see like a 31-28 type game. And I think Georgia wins with a walk-off field goal.
I think Texas is going to win this game. We will not have a podcast where we both pick the opposing team to beat Texas. So I will have Texas winning this game, beating Georgia in overtime. Another overtime game. This time it's going to go not Georgia's way, but I'm going to go Texas in overtime. And in the first overtime, Texas is going to score and go for 2 and win the game by going for 2 instead of just taking it into double overtime to 8 overtimes, going for 2 each and every single time. So
you're predicting the coin toss too, then.
I'm actually predicting Georgia to win the coin toss, Texas to win the coin toss, get the ball second. Yeah. That's how that would work. So anyway, let's go ahead and Jake, that is going to be our SEC championship predictions. I've got Texas winning. I've got Georgia covering that with an overtime 2-point conversion win for Texas. You have Georgia winning outright. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in to our final college football playoff predictions. This will be the last time we have to predict any of the standings or any of the games and how this thing is going to look, because after Saturday, we will have the total picture of what the first 12-team college football playoffs are going to look like. Jake, go ahead, announce your first 4. I will then give my first 4, and we will wrap it up, giving everybody our total 12-team college football playoff predicted teams.
Yeah. So again, this isn't necessarily what I want. This is what I'm predicting. I will tell you now, I think Tanner went with what he wants.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. An actual prediction.
I don't think it's what I want. And then what I'm also if it's what I want, it's what I see what will happen. If that makes sense. I think the committee,
I think you've been listening to the children in your house too much.
The committee will do what I am predicting will happen if the things that I want play out on the field.
Yeah, I'll tell you why you're wrong after we predict. So my 4 going 1 to 4, Oregon, Georgia, SMU, and Arizona State. You can go back to yesterday's episode and see our predictions. Obviously, you'll you can guess who I have winning their respective conference championship games based off those.
And then I have Oregon as the number 1 seed, Texas as the number 2 seed, Boise State winning the Mountain West game, getting a top 4 seed as a bye, and Arizona State wrapping up as the 4 seed.
Do you 5 through 12 just go right down?
Yeah, just go straight through 5 through 12.
So I have Notre Dame at the 5 seed. I think they'll hold that just because they have the only one loss, and they have a similar win against A&M point wise at A&M. I think the committee will keep Notre Dame at 5. Then I have Texas at 6, and I don't like how this would turn out my matchups. But I have Penn State 7, Ohio State at 8. Tennessee at 9, Indiana at 10, Alabama at 11. So Texas would host Alabama in the first round of the playoffs. And then UNLV at the 12, because I picked them to take down Boise State.
I think Texas would beat Alabama, to be 100%.
I do too, but it'd be more annoying.
It would be very annoying. Yes.
We could be the 5 seed and playing UNLV, or the 7 seed and playing Indiana. Instead, you're playing Alabama, who just has more talent than either of those other teams.
Yeah. I see what you did there, Jake, because you really hate Alabama. So you're like, oh, Texas has to be the beneficiary.
And then, my worst nightmare would be them losing to them after all the things I've said.
Correct. Yes. I understand where you went there. You went doomsday in your own scenario. So for me, number 5, again, I agree with you on Notre Dame. I would have Penn State at number 6, having 2 losses, losing to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Tennessee would then jump Georgia in this scenario, only having 2 losses. Georgia having 3 losses after the SEC championship game, I believe would be seated around number 8. Ohio State at number 9. I think that loss to Michigan is inexcusable. You talked about it on yesterday's episode. However, they do have a win over Indiana, so I got to give Indiana the nod. But I do have Clemson beating SMU in the ACC championship game, and Clemson still being ranked below them, so they would actually get the final seed as the 12th seed, but SMU at number 10 and Indiana at number 11, and then Clemson at number 12. So that would be Texas, for those who are not doing the mental math, would have a first round bye, and they would then play the winner of the 8-9 game, I believe. No, they would play the winner of the 6-11 game of Penn State and Indiana.
Which I would like actually probably better than my scenario, but
I would take the winner of either one of those games. I would take that. So Jake, why don't you like mine? What's
there is a 0.0000 repeating chance that Alabama is not in the playoff.
Why do you think that? Why are you so confident about
that? The committee has already showed you they are putting them in. They have already showed you.
Even if Clemson and an Arizona State, who are not currently top 12 teams, they would have to take 2 spots in there to push them backwards, or at least Clemson would, because Arizona State, I guess, is technically one of the 4 teams.
I think they would take I could see them taking SMU out. I think they are, in their mind, Alabama is in. I think they will just put them in regardless. Also, I don't think they would put Georgia behind Tennessee, because they would go, yes, Georgia lost the SEC title game. That's another loss. However, they beat Tennessee. They also would already beat Texas, who they lost to. I think they would have them above Tennessee.
Yeah, probably right. Whatever. But I think I like my
betting
rankings.
Market agrees with me heavily on Alabama.
Sure. That's fine. And that is fine by me, but I am not always a betting man, and I like to play the underdog role, and I want this college football playoff to be the underdog role. So anyway, Jake, that is going to do it for our SEC championship preview for Texas and Georgia. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel. We will have an immediate reaction following the big game on Saturday, probably around 6:30, 7 o'clock-ish range, right as the Big Ten and ACC championship games are getting underway. And so, Jake, any last words, any last comments other than picking Texas to lose against Georgia come Saturday?
You got to just throw that in there again.
Just a
I have
reminder.
picked them to win.
I just don't want people to forget what you did.
I have picked them to win every single time this season. This is the first time I picked them to lose, and it's against the team they lost at home to. I think it's fair.
And it doesn't end their season. If you pick this game and it would have ended their season, I would actually be super concerned.
I wouldn't do I would let my homerism
Yeah,
take.
you have to let your homerism take.
No, yeah.
I do respect the non-biased pick. And trust me, if there is ever a season, God forbid, under Sark, where Texas is, say, 7-win team, 8-win team, and they're that caliber of program throughout the season, you can almost guarantee Jake and I will give you our honest opinion on who we think will win the game. We were wrong one time this year, if you want to look at it that way. I mean, we picked Texas in every single game. We were wrong once. Okay. So it's hard to get much better than that. So
if anything, we gave the opponents more credit for possibly making a closer game than they turned out to be.
More times than not.
Of the time. Look at OU.
Yeah.
Look at A&M. I mean,
absolutely.
You had A&M much closer. I had Texas barely covering the 5.5 point spread. Like we gave other teams more credit more often than not than how they turned out. Michigan, multiple times this season.
I do pride ourselves.
First time.
Yeah, I do pride ourselves. You and I am confidently, and proudly to say that we will not give just a fanboy, prediction every single week on what this team is. We will give a realistic outside perspective look on what this team is when they struggle. Now, this season has been all glitz and glam, and it's been fun, and it's been positive probably 85-90% of the time. But trust me, in those down years, this podcast would have been fire. So anyway, let's go ahead and wrap up the show, Jake. Again, for Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. Like, share, subscribe. We come out with these episodes Tuesday through Friday, dropping at noon, and then immediate reaction following Saturday's game. We appreciate everybody. This is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network.
All In Sports Network. We love sports.
I'm still recording. I didn't sign off. Hook 'em.
All In Sports Network. We love sports.